Hello, hola, bonjour, namaste. Welcome to another exciting episode of CU Online Diaries. CU Online Diaries is a video podcast series that was created to discuss latest trends, techniques, and innovations in the field of online education, especially at Center for Distance and Online Education at Chandigarh University, as well as around the world. So in these podcasts, we bring in academicians, industry experts, and policymakers from around the world to share their views and ideas about online education firsthand. So today, ladies and gentlemen, we have with us an educator, a classroom practitioner, a researcher from RMIT University, Australia, Dr. Kevin Argus. Welcome, Dr. Kevin.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
Yeah, thank you so much. And so Dr. Kevin is the MBA program director at Graduate School of Business and Law at the university. He is passionate about sustainability, for which he is collaborating with industry partners to address critical issues like food waste reduction. Dr. Argus is known for his research addressing the needs of academia and industry, for which he received the prestigious 2023 RMIT Rising Media Star Award. So, Dr. Argus, we are very, very fortunate to have you in here with us today talking about several issues and challenges in education around the world. And thank you so much for joining us.
It's a pleasure.
Yeah. So when I looked at your whole profile, I mean, what fantastic work you have been doing for education. So there are a few questions that come to my mind primarily. The first thing that comes to my mind, as a leader in both academia and industry collaborations, how do you see, the online learning platforms facilitating partnerships between educational institutions and businesses to address real-world challenges, especially in between India and Australia, and later on in between India and the rest of the world?
I think this is a really good question, because what we need to do in education, and certainly from what I've heard, University of Chandigarh excels, as does RMIT, in deep engagement with industry. So when it comes to online learning, it's really about working with industry partners,
right?
Getting industry partners to sponsor your major and minor specializations, various courses, getting students to work on real world projects.
Right.
And I think really for India, the rest of the world is seeing that there's so much opportunity for obvious reasons. One is that the market is in a growth
right.
phase demographically.
Right.
Also economically, there's an enormous amount of opportunity. And I guess a lot of opportunity for collaboration globally. And so certainly at RMIT, we have a keen eye on this part of the world.
Yeah.
And we look at significant research, say in the areas that I'm in that are related to sustainability and circular economy, anything around environment and social impact that really resonates globally, that's going to have a lot of need for investment by government and policy guideline, but also for industry to embrace and adopt. All of that impacts the students, because the students are really the leaders of today and tomorrow in the sorts of transformative change that's occurring.
Right. That's nice. See what I'm thinking right now, how educational landscapes of different countries, are impacting the outcomes, educational outcomes of various countries. Especially when I talk about India and Australia, we have had, the long and, long-lasting linkages, in educational and industrial, domains. So from there, and I know, you have an expertise in consumer behavior and so many other areas that we have been talking about. So given your expertise in consumer behavior, how do you see online education influencing and shaping consumer attitude towards sustainability and responsible consumption? Because sorry, yeah, please go ahead.
It's really interesting. I think online learning is an extension of how connected we are,
right,
through social networking.
Right.
And what I've experienced coming to this region compared to, say, 20 years ago, a younger generation have far greater awareness globally because
Right.
their friend networks extend globally.
Yeah.
I'm on Instagram, and all sorts of other platforms. a lot of people that I follow are from this region,
Right.
and I deliberately follow them to see what's created by the
Right.
imaginations of people in
Right.
this region,
Right.
but then you get global response. So you
Right.
read the feeds and you find that we have more in common than we have that is different.
Right.
We just have a different contexts and different cultures.
Right.
So when it comes to online education, what you find is you get people from, if it's within India, you're getting people from various parts of India that otherwise would not come together. And if you're getting people from outside of India who are joining as well, in the conversations that are happening in the classroom, just as you have in social media,
Right.
you're getting different context and lived experience, and a realization through this platform of learning
Right.
that yours isn't the only lens of looking at problems and challenges around the world.
Right.
And so until we actually either visit or meet somebody, like visit a place and see,
Right.
or speak to others, and we
Right.
can't visit everywhere, but in an online platform, there's a bond. We're all part of the same thing. We're on the same journey.
Right.
And when we share that, we listen to the questions, the responses of our fellow students. We hear from academics.
Right.
We collaborate and work on projects together.
Right.
There are things that are global that we all share. We
Right.
all want a sustainable planet
Right.
for ourselves and for our descendants.
Right.
We need ecosystems that are sustainable, but we also need societies that are more cohesive and more equitable.
Right.
When I go around India
Right.
and speak to groups of young students,
Mhm.
and I talk about sustainability and what matters, everyone talks about things about improving things in the regions,
Mhm.
better opportunity, and the amount of empathy towards things like social equity and the opportunity to use our resources
Right.
better. Sure, it's improving, but I'm so impressed by emerging generations of people who are looking and just seeing, whether it's technology or whether it's policy or whether
Right.
it's just designing better futures. There's so much opportunity, but coming together in learning platforms,
Right.
I think universities have always provided that. They've
Right.
provided the ability for people to engage with others that have different perspectives
Right.
and open their minds and realize it's not
Mhm.
about me demonstrating what I know. It's about recognizing there's a lot I don't know.
Right.
Maybe I need to be more curious and
Right.
ask more questions.
Yeah, that's nice. I mean, see, I must tell you something about the Chandigarh University Online, Kevin. We have been, trying to work so much towards the sustainability of education, because sustainability is something, that lasts for a long period, right? So the thing is, when we bring the students to the regular traditional classrooms, I mean, I don't know how much that model is going to survive. I mean, though we are heavily relying on that model, right? So, but in online education, we try to, connect with our students from various aspects. There are 5 to 6 engaging techniques that we use at Chandigarh University Online, ladies and gentlemen, that we rigorously involve, apply all the time, and administer with our teaching learning strategies to make students learning more joyful and more engaging. For example, we use several discussion forums, right, where our faculty or faculty mentors, they connect with the students and get their responses. I mean, what they think about the current issues, from their area of expertise and from their domains, on a particular topic. So that's one thing. Another thing is, we bring the students on the immersive programs on campus. So those are sometimes called, PCPs, the like where students can come together and get trained and get taught by our educators from different parts of the world. Number 3, we are having, ladies and gentlemen, master series for all our students. I mean, as what you did today, Kevin. I mean, so Kevin has just delivered, one of the master classes to our students, online students, and as per his, feedback, he said, I mean, he was really excited about that, right? I mean, he came from Australia and he was sitting at Chandigarh University and he was talking to different students, learners from across the globe. I mean, that's something amazing. And that's the power of, online education, ladies and gentlemen. That brings in one more component of education, very, very fruitful and successful. That is called inclusivity. How do we include, I mean, each and everybody, those who would like to to get at some point in their life, some education, or those who would like to continue their education, at any point of time in their life. So keeping all the things in mind, Kevin, I'm thinking, how, I mean, again, coming back to your own research, that you have done, for, disseminating those impactful, efforts, into the society. So how do you believe online education platforms can promote, creative solutions for environmental sustainability, since you have already spoken about the sustainability? So now connecting these three dots together, like online education platforms, let us say, for example, learning management systems and other those things, and creative solutions for the environmental sustainability across the globe. Just quick 2-3 points.
Okay, so the one thing that you mentioned leading up to this was students connected to other students.
Right.
And we've had that same challenge and dilemma,
right.
and we've evolved in similar ways to you have, and
right.
found other ways to evolve as well. And I think
right.
we get that feedback from our students.
Right.
Once you've got that happening, then you're getting a sense of working on projects. We can't all solve everything, but if we understand the bigger picture, and that if we can use cases from industry
right.
and collaborate on them,
wow.
we can take the learnings from that, which may be transferable elsewhere. Because you can get a sense of, now I understand why when trying to solve a problem, I need
right.
to be aware that there's a holistic perspective. I don't want to solve a problem that creates another problem.
Right.
Because sometimes what happens is somebody's very focused on solving a problem, but in doing so, they use a lot of resources
right.
that actually, let's say if it's offsetting carbon,
right.
they'll do something like you create things on the cloud. It's very,
right.
there's lots of databases, there are
right.
data banks that need to be, it's very carbon intensive to have massive clouds of data,
right.
because it's not
right.
really in the cloud.
Right.
It's
right.
sitting
right.
in a data bank
right.
somewhere.
Right.
Yeah.
yeah.
So I think that perspective of a holistic lens,
right.
these types of concepts that students
right.
gain, but
right.
I don't think they would gain that if they were learning in isolation.
Wow. That's fantastic. I mean, when you were talking about these points, then I was thinking in my brain, ladies and gentlemen, at Chandigarh University Online, we use various techniques and we have several labs to make it happen. What you said, Kevin, for example, pedagogical innovation lab that we have set up at Chandigarh University Online, where we create the content, the interactive content for our learners. I mean, so that, they can get a feel of the content which is not exactly written in the book. Other than that, and that content comes directly from the industry. We do not repeat anything, in any of our quadrants. And in online education, I must tell you, Kevin, for your information, though you already know about these things, online education is divided into 4 different quadrants. So in each quadrant, delivering the content with that conviction and with that connectivity that can help students get engaged with the content, that is one of the most important components. So ladies and gentlemen, from that aspect, since I know, I mean, Kevin, you have been working on, your research, as well as you have been working with your students, in several areas to just, have better engagement into the classroom practices. So my question now next goes to, what are some of the successful strategies, in your opinion, for getting students interested, first in classrooms, second in online classrooms, especially for online courses, because we are working in online world right now. So that emphasizes, applying and, those techniques into the real world. I mean, in a nutshell, I mean, how to keep students engaged, especially the students that come from the professional background. They are doing job in the morning, and in the afternoon or in the evening, they are just in the class. So if you can provide us some tips and some strategies for that would be great.
I think that's a universal challenge for any education, whether it's face-to-face or online. But certainly in online, what we've done is we recognize that adult learners who are coming to learning, many of them have already had an undergraduate qualification,
right.
or even if they haven't, they've had a lot of experience.
Right.
what they're looking for is applied guidance in terms of what's the vision for what I'm learning.
Wow.
So we run, similar to what you're doing, is we get industry in and we run webinars around particular topics that are either very general across a program, or we'll choose an aspect and get experienced practitioners. And we'll have a panelist who's one of the academics who's sort of designing the questions around it, then run an open Q&A. The other part of it then is, okay, they've heard from industry experts. How do we then keep a conversation going and relate that to furthering the conversation among the cohort? So one thing that I always try to achieve with our team is think about, yes, we have this research and teaching nexus. In other words, we try to bring our research projects with industry into the classroom where possible, not just telling you about them, but actually forming assessments, or if it's not going to be your assessment, maybe a project around it that's a learning project. But the other thing that I think is really interesting there is that if we can engage with industry in value-based projects where students are providing value back to them, we get deeper engagement with industry and students get authentic experiences and they get feedback from industry. Making that happen online is a little bit more interesting than what you do in face-to-face. But we've worked at models where we can do that. And sometimes what we do is, let's say students are going to pitch to an industry partner around a project. We might get them in groups to just create a little video pitch. And that way you've got an artifact that you can refer to, depending whether it's a student who's looking for employment as an outcome, or somebody wants to demonstrate their capability on their CV. But also maybe the top three of them, or three or four or whatever, the industry partner will actually then give some feedback to, but give feedback to everybody in a forum. But just using those as sort of a benchmark. Because you've always got this balance of the value proposition. There's always time and resources. But if you can extract the value, then the students sort of get a sense, well, like I did, in my case, it might be postgraduate learning. I did it because I wanted to get something that I could apply. Quality university is giving you quality knowledge. How are they gearing you towards being able to apply that? And I guess that's really where we're all in that space.
Yeah. Definitely, I definitely agree with what you said. Because the thing is, why are we learning everything? We are learning everything just to apply that, into the real world scenario. That's the purpose of learning. If we can, make it, useful for the mankind, I think that's the ultimate goal for all of us, for the learning, for new learnings. So when I was listening to your response to my question, Kevin, so I got to know, two things in my brain. And number one, you mentioned about the inclusion of industry, or industry experts into the teaching learning processes. So ladies and gentlemen, I must tell you in here, we bring in lots of industry experts of international repute, from India as well as from abroad, to our master classes. And sometime whenever we get the opportunity, we bring in them, in person also for our learners, as you did today, right? You spoke to our students directly, right?
Yes,
that was a
indeed.
fantastic experience for all of us, and as well as for our learners. So we do that. Number one, we try to bring in, very rigorously, very extensively the industry people into our course curriculum on a daily basis. Number one. Number two, we have started one program, Kevin, you might like the idea of COIL. See, the collaborative online international learning experiences. In that COIL series, ladies and gentlemen, we bring in several experts from around the world, on board, and those who can speak to our, students, our learners directly. So we are trying to make this, shift, or this, kind of transition between the teaching learning arena and into the industry. So we are at the forefront of doing those things, and we are trying to just add value to the overall concept, holistic concept of education in India, that is Viksit Bharat. So going forward from there, ladies and gentlemen, Kevin, you have received several awards for your commitment to bridging the gap between academia and industry. So how can, you think very quickly, like, that, online education platforms or online education can, help create those, researchers and, the entrepreneurs. See, we in online education, we talk about education, we talk about transformation, we talk about all the other components of teaching learning. But the thing is, what I feel like, is missing, that is number one, the entrepreneurship. Are we, because the people, those whom we are teaching, they are already into the professional career. See, so how can we make them better entrepreneurs, number one? And another thing is, can we bring them into some research also? So if you can speak something about these two components, like, in as far as online education is concerned, that would be great.
Okay, so this is really timely because literally just in the last month, I've been approached by a group of 3 of my online MBA alumni.
Okay.
They have a new business idea. Now, one of them is from a technical background, and the other from hospitality.
Okay.
And another one from healthcare. We have an issue in healthcare that we don't have enough hospital beds often. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
So the idea for them is, why not use hospitality for people who are at a low level of needing assistance post-operation? Right. So it could just be a knee reconstruction from younger, healthier sort of people. Right. Why not actually develop a business model where hotels can be places that provide a better service experience? Now, they've already done a trial before they've come to us among 5 people in their network. And the feedback they got from that trial, which is not an official trial, it's not evidence, but it's just for them getting some feedback on their idea, is that they can actually come up with a model. Now, there's a federal government grant. They would need an institution like us to lead that, to make it rigorous, but it could be something that actually helps the health department deal with the reality that it's very expensive just building more hospitals and providing more beds. Right. A hospital, for somebody to have a hospital bed per night, is $1,500 a night in terms of the per person cost. In a luxury hotel in Australia, it might be around, say, $600 in terms of the equivalent type of and then when you've got the servicing, you might still end up with about $800. So the insurance company would probably be very happy with that. But that's because they networked while they were doing their MBA and talked about wanting to do something entrepreneurial. Right. Design thinking was embedded in the program. Things like, digital innovation and those types of courses people undertook, and they got networking. And I think it's fascinating that he came to me on LinkedIn and said, "Oh, Kevin, remember that, I was one of your students in the online. Well, I've sort of got together with 2 others, and this is what we want to do. We've got this grant. We can't do it ourselves. It needs an institution like a university." That's just a prime example, but not the only example. I've had numerous examples of that where students have come back and said, we've got an entrepreneurial idea, but we need to collaborate with the university. Is there some research project? And often these grants, they're usually often 50-50, where the funding will fund 50%, the entrepreneur puts up the other 50%, but you scale it in a manner that meets who the key stakeholders are that you need to impress with the outcomes of the research. But that surprises me all the time. Now, I will say to the students, anyone watching or listening, is do connect with the academic community, because the academic community and the industry partners that you come across, because if you've got ideas, they can just be your outreach. And when people outreach to me, if I'm not the person to help them, I've got a network of people who I know I could put them in contact with. And Chandigarh University is so well connected and it's so large and so many academia. I think that sense of the academic community is really part of your network. That's what you have ongoing. So I really am very active in LinkedIn, and I encourage my students to, when they've left as alumni and whatever, they're out there working, and we might even call on them and say, "You're doing something really interesting, I can see. Would you be interested in partnering?" It's lifelong. They're the students become part of your alumni. That brand of Chandigarh University is with them forever. The better that brand, the better that ecosystem creates together,
Right.
the stronger everyone is.
Nice. I mean, thank you so much, Kevin, for speaking about Chandigarh University, because since you brought in that term Chandigarh University several times in your this response, so now I'm thinking and at the same time you have responded to my question to the entrepreneurship as well as and you mentioned design thinking somewhere, and how at your university some students, those who brought in some kind of entrepreneurial idea, and how that impacted, helped the rest of the society members, I mean in getting into the the realm of what they have been actually doing. So from that point, when you said, I mean bringing in their ideas, ladies and gentlemen, as learners, you might be working in so many different professional areas, right? So if you have a good project, good idea, bring it to us, we might be able to help you, right, to take that project forward to the next level. So and definitely we have several linkages, several networks, several connections with so many educators around the world, those who are already working in these areas. Might be somebody you get, I mean, who is exactly working on the similar idea, right? So I mean the future is very, very bright, honestly, in terms of online education. So here I would say, Kevin, these combining these all the things together, I mean it makes me think, when we go online, when we connect people through the social media, LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram, Twitter. So the thing is, then it gives us an opportunity to know about others, right? And we get to know what is actually happening around the world and what other people are doing. So this is the current age of the education, which is called the digital education, right? So anyhow, thank you so much for that. So finally, I mean, as a recipient of Rising Media Star Award, I have one more question for you. So how do you think that educators around the world can utilize diverse media platforms to inspire the actions and and create awareness about the importance of sustainable practices, especially in education, and the more focusing on online education?
My advice to my students and to my colleagues, and really what's helped me get that Rising Star Media Award, which was really just having impact and a lot of impact with high quality media,
right,
was that I look to see, when I post anything, what insight or value I can provide. Occasionally I'll post something that is just alerting that something is happening, but more so what I'm seeking to do is to provide value. Because if people get value from reading your content, then they'll remember you, and also keep it simple and relatable to many people.
Right.
But also take an angle. If you've got a perspective, and my perspective is always about, what's the big trends? The big trend of impacting everyone is environmental and social betterment.
Right.
So, with the Rising Star Media Award, there was a lot of stuff around social sustainability with circular economy, but a lot of it was related to the Women's World Cup. Why was that interesting? Because it was about women demonstrating in their sport that they could get a record broadcasting where male sports have traditionally done that.
Very nice.
And I was able to provide a different lens, which was a bit more progressive in terms of analysis than the mainstream media was coming up with. So sometimes it's about being willing to look at the big picture and come up with that and say, that's interesting, present that and put that out there, because that's different to what everyone else is talking about.
Right.
And my angle on that was the demographic reality. And you look at India today and young people today, so many more rising.
Right.
They are so, I mean, as I mentioned earlier, the level of emotional intelligence from younger people in this region is very different to what it was in previous generations. And I'm somebody of a previous generation, but it's just remarkable, And I think speak to that, and then you're speaking not just whatever the basic commentary is. You've got a point of difference, and media are likely to then run with that. Find your niche, find your narrative, and then if people want something that's different and interesting, and they feel you're connecting it to a bigger picture, they'll say, well, maybe there's some truth or interest in that. And that's what I found. People kept coming back, and same with the angle and circularity, the work we were doing. I think if you also are open to share your stories,
Right.
and because you're sharing them often, people will say,
Right.
well, this
Right.
person's a team player. We'll
Right.
go back to them. They'll have
Right.
something to say.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I mean, see, these are some of the amazing stories that you have shared, from your own, professional and educational career. I mean, that's nice. So, Kevin, your expertise in bridging academia and industry is truly inspiring, And when I was reading your profile, I mean, it was so rich and, diverse. And before we conclude, do you have any final thoughts or message for our learners? I mean, just one or two, maybe.
All right.
Yeah.
The future really is lifelong learning.
Right.
I believe it always has been.
Right.
But I do believe that through learning and learning with others, we don't just learn knowledge.
Right.
We gain those perspectives and insights.
Right.
And opportunities.
Right.
We can't do everything together. Through
Right.
collaboration, we do.
Right.
And I think that universities have always been a place
Right.
where people come together, get different perspectives, make new friends
Right.
or bonds,
Right.
carry them forward, where you have an opportunity,
Right.
when you connect with somebody,
Right.
follow up with that connection. It doesn't have to be about an inquiry to do
Mm.
something. Just stay in touch with that person.
Mm.
And if you do so sincerely,
Mm.
my experience is that you end up with a network of people that when you reach out to them, they know you're a sincere person,
Right.
and
Right.
they're more likely
Right.
to be responsive.
Right.
Yeah,
definitely. I mean, I completely agree with you. I mean, ladies and gentlemen, what I have understood out of what you said, I mean, collaborate with others,
Mhm.
be open to the ideas, and, just networking is the key, I think, right? Okay. So, well, thank you so much for sharing your, knowledge and insights with us today, Kevin. And we are truly humbled and, inspired by what all you have said and what all you have done in the field of education. So, ladies and gentlemen, we also thank you for joining us, on this, enlightening journey. And remember to tune in next time for more engaging discussions on education, developments, online education, and about, people's experiences, how they have, made the transformation shift in their educational and professional journeys, like what Kevin did. And more to that, how the pedagogical innovations are taking the center stage right now around the world. Until we meet again, keep the sparkle of curiosity alive and continue spreading sunshine as you work towards a brighter world. Bye and have a great day ahead.